Hey everyone, in this fourth video in this mini-series, we're going to explore the question of what the two solutions detailed above in the preceding videos, what these two solutions really fundamentally have in common. And what they have in common is in both cases you have, I think it's fair to say, an audience, okay, that's in the process of becoming a community. The American veterans, and by extension, the veterans of the world, they're not exactly an audience per se, but they have the same characteristics of any of the audiences that we make reference to, like, for example, Paul Beckwith's audience for his YouTube videos on his YouTube channel. Um, he, um, he has an audience that are, for the most part, fragmented. They have some ways of communicating with each other, but they're extremely limited, like, typing comments into the comment section of a given YouTube video, right? It's asynchronous, it's text-based, it's but it is something. It's not nothing, but it is something, but it's something small. And it's very, very small compared to what it could grow to become. And that's the idea of the after party. So, but what does the after party do? It brings together this audience that was heretofore fragmented, now gets to come together. Well, guess what? The community of 2 million American veterans is also fragmented, right? Now, this was best illuminated by an example that was in the series. Was it the Rick Burns series on Vietnam? Who's that famous? Anyway, that one that came out in like 2017 or 2018 or something like that, 2017, I think. And it was that, 10 or 12 part series on Vietnam. And it starts out near the beginning as an example where there are these two veterans who are living next door to each other. They're both Vietnam vets, and they live together side by side as neighbors for years. And it wasn't until, a few years before that documentary was made that one of the wives of one of the veteran Vietnam vets talked with the other wife. They were talking, they'd gotten to know each other over the years. And it finally came out that both guys were Vietnam vets. But they went for years without knowing that. That's how fragmented our veteran is, side by side neighbors, not even knowing that each other are vets, that they have that in common. So what Operation Welcome Home does is it lifts the veil. In both cases, the veil is lifted, the curtain is lifted, and we're suddenly in contact with the rest of the community, right? It's kind of like your first day at school after having grown up from age 0 to, 5 out in the country, and suddenly you're in this school with a couple hundred other kids. It's like, whoa, that's a big deal. That's what this is going to be. It's going to be like the first day of school. That's what this is going to be like. We're suddenly in the midst of a whole bunch of other people we want to be in the midst of. People who watch Paul Beckwith videos yearn to connect with the rest of Paul Beckwith's audience. Just like the veterans yearn to connect with each other, they just don't know it yet necessarily. Right?
Well, I think the two Vietnam vets side by side for years and not knowing highlights the difference between World War II vets, for example, and Vietnam vets. Vietnam vets are not, there's a stigma there that
Yeah, but that stigma carried through into the 1980s.
Yeah.
Right? And it took Ronald Reagan's warmongering to, to shift that perspective. And then movies like Rambo, you know, so we slowly in the 80s started to claw our way out of this hole we had dug for ourselves in terms of fragmenting and separating and isolating the Vietnam vets who during the Vietnam War were coming together and accomplishing pretty amazing things in terms of the anti-war movement. One could argue they were a critical force to ending the war. So, who did that threaten? Yeah, I wouldn't even go there. But there is certainly, anyway, I don't want to go into speculation here, but the bottom line is that our veterans have been deeply fragmented, and it's absolutely terrible. And they want to be connected. They want to be part of a community. Operation Welcome Home accomplishes that. You know, a box full of 50 specialty food products from all 50 states. What does that say, Marco?
Michigan says thanks.
No, it says welcome home,
Oh,
veteran.
welcome home, veteran. Yeah, Michigan says thanks.
Yeah. Now, how did it feel to say that, Marco?
Feels right.
Yeah. Now you're Michigan. You're a Michigander.
Yeah,
From the veterans' perspective, they're going to be getting thanks from all 50 states. It's like the whole country is standing at attention, giving them thanks in the form of something they can eat. And then all kinds of other, comfort stuff. That's comfort food. This is a comfort sweater, comfort blanket, scarf, hat, gloves, and some pretty cool swag, t-shirts and everything that say Operation Welcome Home. Maybe even some small t-shirts for the family, for the kids, wife and kids. Hey, maybe a different color, right? You know how like at the community cafe, the managers had t-shirts of one color and, the volunteers, the high school volunteers had t-shirts of another color. Nothing wrong with that, right? So we'll have some swag in there for the veteran, like an Alice pack that's just freaking military grade, a tough book, Chromebook or whatever, or tablet, but with that Panasonic tough book element, uh, with long battery life and rugged and, all kinds of backup batteries and even solar panel to charge it if you're out in the wild so that you stay connected because it's connected to the internet through satellites. So 24/7 connection, no reason to go dark, you know, and this way, every single veteran is able to connect to the veteran Zoomosphere. And if they need tech support, a volunteer is, probably less than 5 minutes away. And these are people who want to support our veterans. The whole country is going to be volunteering in one way, shape, or form or another. From grandmas in Iowa knitting blankets for vets to a kid on a skateboard in Brooklyn who skateboards a few blocks down to a veteran to show them how to get connected to the veteran Zoomosphere, right?
for sure.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So in both cases, whether a Paul Beckwith after party or the veteran Zoomosphere or veteran Chizzy, if you prefer, I prefer veteran Chizzy, right? Um, in both cases, we're taking a community that's very fragmented and bringing them together or inviting them to come together, right? They get the invitation. Nobody's required to do anything here in either case, but they get the invitation. Some will come. That's all we need to get orders of magnitude more than critical mass, as we've talked about. But we're talking about what these two have in common. Again, in both cases, it's communities that are fragmented that are given an invitation and given the tools to come together. That's huge. Marco, is
Yeah,
that not huge? Does anything like a Veterans Hemisphere exist today?
not
Right?
aware of.
Does anything like Operation Welcome Home, where you get a giant foot locker made of sustainable American hardwood with an Operation Welcome Home binder inside, all the food, all the comfort swag, everything else. And then in addition to that, a cooler. See, that's a wooden box. In addition, you get a cooler of similar size, the kind of thing that comes with an extendable handle, rugged as heck. You can tote it behind, you can bring it to the beach, you can bring it to the park, wherever, and it'll simply be the most badass cooler. Oh my goodness. Wait till you see what we can do with insulated materials. That cooler is going to keep stuff cold for so long. It's just amazing. It's literally amazing, Marco. And then we're going to have like refreezable ice packs and just cool shit that goes in there. Ice cube trays, um, cups. See, all provided by manufacturers. I'm getting too deep into a very specific portion of the topic, but it's exciting to talk about, frankly, because within the wooden box you get the Toughbook Chromebook with lifetime internet access through satellite, right?
And and that's a big key to, I'm sure, what will prove to be the success. It's one thing to invite people to anything.
Yeah.
It's another thing to give them the ability to join.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like if I'm somebody who doesn't know about Zoom or doesn't know anything, and then suddenly I'm at a luncheon with Marco and he says, here, and he hands me his Chromebook and says, check it out. Oh, well, hey, everybody, what's up? Suddenly I'm just there. It's in my hand. That's what we're going to do. We're going to put it in your hand. And if at the moment of delivery, you want to check in and see what's going on. Now, listen to this, Marco. If at the moment of delivery, you want to check it out and see what's going on, you do that. We're getting 1,000 vets live on the first day, right? Of those 1,000 that night, how many do you think are going to be on Zoom together, hanging with guys like Marco? How many out of those 1,000? 500? 200? 800? Regardless of where it
A
is,
good
it's up to the
question.
veterans.
I think
Hey,
it's
they've
going to
got
be a pretty
lives.
high number.
Huh?
I think it'll be a pretty high number.
It's going to number in the hundreds, whether it's low hundreds or high hundreds. We can debate about that all day long, and it's wasted time. We're going to do it, and then we're going to see how many are there at 10 o'clock at night. And you'll probably be there as a volunteer. We'll put you in a special T-shirt with stripes or something that indicates that you're not a veteran, but you're a volunteer. All right? I don't know. Maybe we'll tattoo your forehead, you know, volunteer. But you know what? The volunteers are a very special class of people, and there's all kinds of volunteers. So there's volunteers in the Veterans Hemisphere, or veteran chizzy, if you prefer. There's guardian angel volunteers. There's volunteer chaplains. There's volunteer, folks who volunteer for the Gary Sinise Foundation, volunteers who volunteer for the VA. There's gonna be volunteers up the kazoo helping out. But one of the funnest places to volunteer. Can you imagine the ladies who are going to want to volunteer in the Veterans Hemisphere? We literally have an instance. Listen to this. We literally have an instance of a lady has participated as a volunteer on the block party and other meetings that we host here in this space. And she fell for a veteran and went out to see him all the way across the country. This is a true story. It happened here in our Zoom space, right? Um, this is going to happen more and more. It's just reality, right?
And then there's also, the veterans that are women.
And the veterans who are women who are going to meet, I mean, it's going to be a love fest, frankly. And something similar is true of the Paul Beckwith community. These are people who care. These are people who pay attention. to global warming and just how quickly and how fast it's accelerating, you know. It's refreshing to meet with people who don't have an attitude of like, well, we're not dead yet, and so I think it's all. I mean, what? You know, it's refreshing to talk with not with people who aren't stupid lemmings, marching over the edge of the cliff. And most of humanity are stupid lemmings marching. They're greedy, full of ego, but I mean, we were born into captivity. We were born into this fucking dogfight. And so, well, naturally, we've got some hardened defenses, and one of them is against skepticism. We're natural selection has selected us to be the ones who push forward, regardless of all the devastation that's happening around us, and focus on me first, and environment, animals, plants, ecosystems, other people, you know, enemy tribes, treat them all as, you know, well, something less than special, let's put it that way, right? So, um, we've got some, we've got a lot to take responsibility for. And the main thing we need to do is come together, remove the barriers. So whether it's the Paul Beckwith after party, where they don't need devices because they're already there watching his YouTube video. All they have to know now is to click on the link in the description that says "Come to my Zoom room" after my broadcast has ended. Right? He does his normal podcast, and then everybody meets at his Zoom room. I mean, how simple can it be? This is so simple. And here's the thing, Marco. Sanders wants to make jars and give them to every veteran, certainly in Michigan, probably throughout the Midwest. And if they're a nationwide brand, I'm not super familiar. I'm ashamed to say I should be because they're in the box, right? But we're small in number, so each of us has to do a whole bunch of different tasks. And but this thing is going to freaking grow exponentially. It's inevitable. And what do you got across a couple of lakes? You want to read that, please?
Welcome home, veteran. Illinois says things.
Okay. It's that times 50.
Yeah.
And, at the welcome home boxes that we presented at the Library of Congress, right, in early 2017, that had products from all 50 states, including Alaska, Rhode Island, you name it, literally all 50 states. And so, but putting the device in there, my goodness, taps you into an audience of 22 million. And not an audience, but a community that's been so fragmented, as we've been talking about. Look, is it entirely fragmented? No, the World War II vets, hung out with each other. There's very few of them left. And the next major thing was Korea. My dad was a Korean War veteran. Well, that wasn't a very popular war. Uh, you know, it wasn't as unpopular as Vietnam, but it wasn't the most popular war at the time. And, so there's been a bit of a downhill progression in terms of popularity of wars. You suppose we might be getting ourselves into too many wars, Marco? Oh, but they're so profitable. All right, well then let's keep doing it. Ugh. Oh my God. So we've been abusing our veterans, sending them into conflicts that we really have no business sending them into. But those are other topics. The bottom line is fragmentation exists amongst our veterans, period. That's the issue. And it's our Vietnam veterans who are now our elders, you know, our elder warriors. And they've been so badly fragmented, right? They're just now you see guys walking around with a cap that says Vietnam veteran, and they're older people. These are folks 50 years older than us, right? Wait a second,
No,
50?
not
No.
50.
All right, whatever. But um, no, sorry, 20 years older than us because we were born when they were 20. Okay, so they're 20 years older than us. Sorry about that. So, these are guys in their mid to late 70s, guys and gals in their mid to late 70s. They're elders and it's time to heal those those wounds of separation amongst our Vietnam vets. This is the best way to do it because it brings all veterans together, right? Um, it's something that can really only happen at national scale. So we're thinking of well, anyway, I won't go into more and more details, but we're suffice it to say that we're getting close to launch within a matter of months for doing it at national scale. 22 million with the beautiful hardwood American, sustainably harvested and raised American hardwood, sustainable American hardwood, both for the box and for the binder, and all the products. And it's the whole process of delivering the box to the veteran and hugging them and saying, the whole country says thanks. So in the case of um, Operation Welcome Home, we can't really do it small anymore. We pioneered it small, and it's time to go national. It's as simple as that. In the case of the Paul Beckwith audience coming together as a community, if Paul Beckwith publishes a 2-minute video inviting everyone to come to his next after party, people are going to show up. It's people with a common interest being invited to an after party, a watch party, after party combination, and even a tailgate party if they want, right? It's people with a common interest, people in the audience who are invited to come to an after party after the show. Who's not going to want to show up? Maybe not everybody can. People have other obligations, but everyone's going to want to. Everyone in that audience, that is.
Right.
So what they ultimately have in common is they are communities. In the case of Paul Beckwith, it's not a community yet, it's an audience. So it's an audience and or community. In the case of veterans, it is a community. They don't necessarily know it, but it is a community. And in both cases, whether audience and or community, right? Because the veterans are also an audience, they watch major media, they get mailings from the VA, whatever. But they're a community.
Yeah,
But
think about
not a very united community. That's the thing. So it's audience and or community. And it may be shades of gray between being an audience and being a community, right? And the fact that we're an audience of major media, we're an audience. Veterans are an audience, they get targeted, with a bunch of mailings from the VA, Department of Defense, who knows who the hell else. Local VFW, local American Legion, VFW is Veterans of Foreign Wars, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of people reaching out to them and addressing them as veterans. Well, what do you do when you address a, a community of people? You make them into an audience. So anyway, I think I'm tripping over myself here a little bit, but let's just call it audience and or community. I mean, with that, we kind of covered the spectrum. And it's about giving that audience and or community it's about giving them an invitation to join an event, a party, basically. a constellation of meetings, call it what you will, but they're being invited to come together in conversation or in a lot of different conversations that they can take their pick which, right? That's what it has in common. It's an audience and or community that's relatively fragmented, more than they'd like, and they're given an invitation to come together. And those who do come together, to come together in conversation,
And
to
it's,
reconnect. You know what? There will be Zoom meetings for every year and province combination of the Vietnam conflict. Oh, you were in the Mekong Delta in 75? Mekong 75. Boom. You go back to the Mekong. Oh, you were in whatever company, right? Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think we met up. Remember when we had that whole big training thing and right, and then Dien Bien Phu happened and we all had to scramble and oh man, that was some mean bush, right? That's some serious stuff right there. That's some serious stuff right there. Mekong Delta 75, right? Demilitarized zone. Wait, Mekong 75 was after the end of it. Let's get back to 68. Mekong Delta 68. Demilitarized zone 69, right? Hamburger Hill, right? 67, whatever. I mean, so they can find each other, and there'll be others by literally by down to the company, down to the whatever division. Um, and some of those may meet once a week. Some of them they start up and there's hundreds of people there, and then it grows to to near 1,000, and it just doesn't peter out. It keeps growing and growing. But there's always a bearded Marco there, right? Keeping the campfire alive.
like, again, it brings us back to the point of not just inviting, but giving people the ability to attend.
Inviting and empowering. They're being
Yes,
invited and empowered. The Paul
empower.
Beckwith the Paul Beckwith invitation empowers his audience to show up and become a community. And the tablets and internet connection and extended battery life and even solar panels. How cool is that? We include a solar panel, right? And maybe it's a solar panel that's part of a frisbee or something. So it's like the coolest thing. What are you doing? Throwing? Hey man, this thing is built to last. It's so rugged, and then your dog bites it because you throw it and the dog thinks it's a toy. All right, well maybe not a frisbee or something, but maybe a hat or oh, I know, I got it, Marco. An umbrella that sits on your head. Beep. That way on a bright sunny day, you're walking along and you're chilling. You're chilling,
Chilling
right?
and urgent.
And it protects you from the rain. Maybe it's an umbrella, and then you maybe put it in the ground like that James Bond mini umbrella thing. Anyway, that was in that movie, Die Another Day, at the very beginning in North Korea. The surfers surf those giant waves. One of them was James Bond. Boom, they plant that little thing, and it opens up into an umbrella. Anyway, um, I mean, we're going to make it so badass that every veteran, right, can participate. Even a houseless veteran, they just take their Alice pack with all that equipment, all that gear inside, and they head for the hills and they're connected, right?
Ooh.
No, Marco, this is revolutionary what we're going to do. In both cases, after parties for Paul Beckwith and Operation Welcome Home, right? I don't care if Paul Beckwith has to hear about this through a veteran, you know. All right, it's time to wrap this up. It's freaking insanely late and it's early morning for you, heading towards mid morning. Anyway, love you, brother. Let's pause this recording unless you have anything else to add about this very important topic space.
No, I think we covered it.
You know, one other thing that these two have in common is, listen, this is very important. Neither of them require Chizzy to get off the ground. That's an important distinction. It's common to both classes of solutions.
But
Operation Welcome Home was born
through
without Chizzy. And now the after party, the concept emerged from Chizzy in that case, the after party. So the concept emerged from Chizzy, but aside from, I mean, I don't know, is it fair to say Chizzy or have we hit Chizzy yet? Let's just call it Chi, collective human intelligence, forget the super.
the
It
the,
was
the,
certainly collective
the
human intelligence that birthed the idea of the after party. And now
right.
we're working on getting it implemented. But Operation Welcome Home, it also came from Chi, collective human intelligence, but neither of them actually required Chizzy to come into existence. That's the key.
But implementing them will
Yeah,
create Jizzy.
exponentiating them and making their implementation absolutely massive and all inclusive will require Chizzy. But getting so there's a point. So but each of them will be growing exponentially. Um, each of them will be growing exponentially. And in both cases, there's a point where it hits a critical mass, and that critical mass means it went from flatline to knee, and then it's just a matter of time before it essentially goes vertical. The exponential curve. I I called it back in early December that we were in the knee of the exponential for Chizzy generally, right? Which is neither an after party nor Operation Welcome Home, but just Chizzy generally. But we're also, I think we're in the knee of the exponential, certainly for Operation Welcome Home right now. And I don't know if we're in the knee yet for a Paul Beckwith after party. We haven't put that much focus on those lately. We kind of got distracted with other things like Maryland, you know, um, like a bunch of other things. So I don't know if we're in the knee yet for the Paul Beckwith after party or after parties generally, but if we're not in the knee yet, we're getting there fast. Especially as we bring all these things together. These three topics, I think, are a bit of the holy grail. You got the problem and the two classes of solutions, but they're really one big class of mega solution in the direction of Chizzy, which is bringing together an audience slash community that's been fragmented, that hasn't had the means to come together, and suddenly giving them the means to come together in a really meaningful way in both cases. That's huge. And in both cases, there will be ripple effects, right?
And we definitely need those ripple effects to counteract the ripple effects of all the wrong decisions we've made.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's time to do the right thing, to quote the movie Kite Runner. It's time to be good again. It's time to be good again. This is how we do it. All right, so let's do it. All right, that's all I have to say. And it is getting late. All right, love you all, and thanks for watching. Thanks, Marco, brother.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Bye.